Arab-Israeli War. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War began immediately after Israel declared independence on May 14, 1948, following the UN's partition plan to divide British Mandate Palestine into Jewish and Arab states. In response, 5 Arab nations, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, invaded with the goal of destroying the new Jewish state. Despite being outnumbered, the newly formed Israel Defense Forces, IDF, repelled the attacks and captured additional territory beyond the UN-allocated borders. By early 1949, Israel controlled about 77% of the land, and armistice lines were drawn with its neighbors. The war's human cost was immense. Over 700,000 Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled during what became known as the Nakba, leading to a lasting refugee crisis and deepened animosity. The conflict cemented Israel's independence, but left Palestinians stateless, fueling decades of continued regional tension. Suez Crisis. The 1956 Suez Crisis erupted when Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, angering Britain and France and blocking Israeli shipping through the Straits of Tiran. In a secret agreement with the 2 European powers, Israel invaded Egypt's Sinai Peninsula in late October, swiftly capturing key positions and advancing toward the canal. Militarily, Israel achieved rapid success, proving the IDF's growing capability. However, intense pressure from the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Nations forced Israel, Britain, and France to withdraw. A UN peacekeeping force was stationed in Sinai to prevent renewed conflict and ensure freedom of navigation. Though Egypt claimed political victory, Egypt's forces suffered thousands of casualties, and the temporary loss of the entire Sinai Peninsula before international intervention restored the pre-war boundaries. Six-Day War. The Six-Day War erupted in June 1967 after months of tension, including Egypt's closure of the Straits of Tiran and the massing of Arab armies along Israel's borders. Expecting imminent attack, Israel launched a preemptive airstrike on June 5th, destroying the Egyptian, Syrian, and Jordanian air forces within hours. Israeli ground forces advanced rapidly, seizing the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. By June 10th, a UN-brokered ceasefire ended the fighting. Israel's total area of control tripled, and Jerusalem came under full Israeli governance for the first time. Approximately 20,000 Arab soldiers, 800 Israelis, and also 34 Americans were killed due to the bombing of the USS Liberty, marking one of the swiftest and most decisive military victories in modern history. War of Attrition. The War of Attrition followed the 1967 Six-Day War, as Egypt sought to reclaim the Sinai Peninsula through constant low-intensity conflict along the Suez Canal. Beginning in mid-1967, Egyptian artillery, commando raids, and aerial attacks targeted Israeli fortifications known as the Bar Lev Line. Israel retaliated with airstrikes deep inside Egypt and commando operations west of the canal. The fighting intensified in 1969 through 1970, drawing in Soviet advisors and pilots assisting Egyptian forces. Israel shot down several Soviet aircraft in July 1970, escalating Cold War tensions. Both sides suffered thousands of casualties, and neither achieved clear victory. A U.S.-brokered ceasefire took effect on August 7, 1970. The ceasefire froze the front lines along the canal, but left Egypt determined to prepare for a larger assault, directly leading to the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur War. The Yom Kippur War began on October 6, 1973, when Egypt and Syria launched a coordinated surprise attack on Israel during the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur. Egyptian forces crossed the Suez Canal, breaching the Bar Lev Line, while Syrian troops advanced into the Golan Heights. Initially overwhelmed, Israel mobilized its reserves and counterattacked within days. By October 15th, Israeli forces crossed the Suez Canal into Egypt and encircled the Egyptian Third Army. On the northern front, Israeli troops pushed Syrian forces back to within artillery range of Damascus. The United States and Soviet Union imposed a ceasefire on October 25th through the United Nations. Roughly 2,700 Israelis and 15,000 Arabs were killed. The war restored Israeli morale, ended with disengagement agreements, and paved the way for Egypt-Israel peace negotiations. 1982 Lebanon War. The 1982 Lebanon War began on June 6, 1982, when Israel invaded southern Lebanon to expel the Palestine Liberation Organization, following repeated cross-border attacks. Israeli forces advanced rapidly toward Beirut, besieging the city for over 2 months while conducting heavy bombardments. The fighting caused extensive destruction and thousands of civilian casualties. Under U.S. mediation, the PLO agreed to evacuate its leadership and fighters to Tunisia in August. Syrian forces in Lebanon also clashed with Israel, resulting in major air battles that left Syria's air defense network devastated. Israel's objectives soon shifted toward installing a pro-Israeli Christian government, but this effort collapsed after the assassination of Lebanese President-elect Bashir Gemayel. Israeli troops withdrew gradually, maintaining a security zone in southern Lebanon until 2000. The conflict's aftermath saw the emergence and rise of Hezbollah. 2006 Lebanon War erupted on July 12, 2006, when Hezbollah fighters crossed the Israeli border, ambushed an IDF patrol, killed 3 soldiers, and captured 2 others. Israel responded with a massive air campaign and ground invasion aimed at crippling Hezbollah's military capacity and securing the release of its soldiers. Hezbollah fired over 4,000 rockets into northern Israel, while Israeli airstrikes devastated southern Lebanon and parts of Beirut. The conflict lasted 34 days, resulting in over 1,200 Lebanese deaths, mostly civilians, and 165 Israeli fatalities, including 44 civilians. A UN-brokered ceasefire under Resolution 1701 took effect on August 14, 2006, requiring Hezbollah's disarmament and Israeli withdrawal. Israeli forces withdrew by October, leaving United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon peacekeepers in control. Despite heavy losses, Hezbollah remained intact and strengthened its regional stature. Gaza War. The Gaza War began on October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched a large-scale assault from Gaza, killing about 1,200 Israelis and taking over 250 hostages. Israel responded with Operation Iron Swords, unleashing airstrikes, artillery barrages, and a ground invasion that devastated Gaza's infrastructure. By early 2024, Israeli forces controlled most of northern Gaza, and Hamas leadership was fragmented but continued resistance through tunnels and sporadic attacks. The conflict expanded regionally as Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iran-backed militias opened supporting fronts. In 2025, the war persisted with Israeli raids in central Gaza and operations to secure Rafah, while hostage negotiations continued intermittently. By October 2025, Gaza remained under siege, with over 69,000 Palestinians killed and much of the Strip in ruins. 2024 Lebanon War erupted in late October 2023 after Hezbollah began heavy rocket and drone attacks on northern Israel in support of Hamas during the Gaza conflict. The situation escalated into full-scale war by early 2024, with Israel launching extensive air and artillery strikes across southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. Hezbollah retaliated with sustained missile barrages reaching Haifa and beyond. Fierce battles occurred around Nabatea, Bint Jabil, and the Bekaa region. Israeli forces temporarily advanced several kilometers into Lebanon before withdrawing under heavy resistance. Over 4,000 Lebanese and 127 Israelis were killed. Infrastructure damage in Lebanon exceeded $10 billion. A ceasefire mediated by the United States and France took effect on November 27, 2024. Despite the truce, sporadic Israeli airstrikes continued throughout 2025. Iran-Israel War. The Iran-Israel War began on June 12, 2025, marking the first direct military confrontation between Israel and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a coordinated air campaign targeting Iran's nuclear sites, missile bases, and command centers around Tehran, Isfahan, and Natanz. The strikes destroyed key facilities and killed senior members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. In retaliation, Iran launched hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles toward Israeli cities and military bases. Most were intercepted by Israel's Arrow and Iron Dome systems, though several struck Tel Aviv and Haifa, causing civilian and military casualties. Iranian proxy forces in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen also joined the fighting. A U.S. and Qatar-brokered ceasefire took effect on June 24, 2025, ending 12 days of warfare that severely damaged Iran's infrastructure and escalated regional instability.